So guys and girls, welcome to my full review of the Nikon or Nikon D3300 review. Now this, in my opinion, is one of the best entry-level DSLRs you can get. And now there are the 5300 or the 5500, however they are pretty expensive and were out of my budget. So I'm going to be talking about quickly in this brief review, although it's probably going to run for about 10 minutes or so just stick around and yeah, it should be good fun. So first off, you will observe that the body is made out of plastic, which is quite similar to many DSLRs. It is a lightweight material in my opinion, and it is very good. If it was made out of something more heavy duty, it would be a lot more heavier and less portable. And one of the reasons I did buy this camera was purely on its portability and how light it was. So now I'm going to talk about the external features on the outside of the body. So first off, we have a hot shoe mount. If you don't know what it is, you can attach an external microphone with an adapter. You can also attach an LED light. I use my newer light, which gives off some more light, and it basically substitutes the need for me to get a softbox. So it also has basically this like circular wheel, and I call it the scroll wheel. It's probably not that correct terminology, however it has a few modes. I'm only going to be talking about the modes that I think are necessary. So it has the auto mode, which is for beginners. Now what I do recommend is for beginners to stay off this try the camera for about a week or so, and then you will find out that the auto mode is nothing compared to what the camera capability it's nothing compared to what the camera can do. Auto mode is limitless. Auto mode gives you a lot of it just refrains you from just making your photos your own, and on manual mode you can do a lot more. But the one that I use to film all my videos, most of them, the one where I'm talking to a camera, is the portrait mode, which gives you some bokeh shots. Bokeh is blur. In basically bokeh or bokeh comes from Japan, and it's a Japanese word which translates into blur, I think so. And basically that's what gives you the nice out of focus background, and it looks a lot more professional. You see this effect in movies, and it is better as you're not always wondering what's going on in the background. Your attention is purely on that person or individual. So we also has a landscape mode, which has a higher aperture, so f8, and basically it's great for going on holiday, taking photos of landscapes like the hills, the mountains, even the ocean or the sea. That's what I did when I went on Portugal. When I went to Portugal, sorry. So yeah, now if you guys know me, I do gymnastics. I used to, and I still do it on the trampoline. So I use a sports mode when needing to take photos, and it has a 5 frames per second shutter, and this is what the shutter sounds like. So the sports mode gives you a fast shutter. However, what I would recommend you to do is buy a lens which is necessary for sports photography. That's like me saying I'm gonna try and get a really nice sports mode photo when I have a f1.8 lens. It's not gonna happen. It's not good enough. So what you should do is buy a telephoto lens, and if you're a photography enthusiast and you like doing portrait modes, or you want to start YouTube, get the one I have, which is the 35mm f1.8 lens. So that's all good. So it also has a macro mode. However, like I just mentioned, you need a good macro lens. However, I found a quick solution, and that is to buy some macro filters. They are about £10 on Amazon, about 20 bucks. And what they do is allow you to get close-up shots. Because of 35mm lens, you have to be pretty far from the lens for it to focus. I was wondering that until I just researched it, and that was that. Now it also has an effects mode, and this is kind of gimmicky. I only use the Panorama. My reviews are only to give you some information and not meant to be long-winded. However, I will be publishing a long-winded version tomorrow, sooner or later, and it's going to be about 30 to 40 minutes long. So it's basically for all the people that want to know what this camera is all about. So if you do want to know, then click that subscribe button if you haven't already. So the only effects mode I use is the easy panorama. This is quick and simple. I've seen reviews where people say it's not easy when actually it is. And I also looked into it. They have probably never ever used the smartphone panorama mode. And if you use the smartphone panorama mode, it's basically easy. And it's the same thing on the camera, and it is great, and it gives you a lot more capability and more zoom. So it has a better megapixel count. So it also has an AE lock button. It locks the frame, so I can lock my face in position. However, I don't use this that much as I move about in my videos. It's just the way people do it. Some people move their hands when they talk. That's how it is. AE lock will basically lock everything except for that little frame, and yeah, and that will only be in focus. Now, what I really like as well is the viewfinder. And what I loved about this, because I used to have an SLR, and that uses a digital viewfinder, which means that if I wanted to look through the viewfinder, I would have to turn on the camera, and the viewfinder was really pixelated, like really pixelated. It's like putting a 360p screen inside a 2-inch, like less than an inch screen. So it's just crazy. Whereas the viewfinder in this DSLR is great. So if I take the lens out, nothing will happen. If I put the lens in, you'll see the subject that the lens is looking at. So it also has a live view mode. You'll see it as the LV. Basically what this LV or live view mode will do is basically you can see any of your photos, or you can look more clearly on a bigger screen as to what your photos are going to look like. Now, you cannot record unless you're on the LV mode. You can't record video unless you're on the live view mode. So that's what I normally do. But to take photos, I use the viewfinder, as the shutter is pretty fast when using the viewfinder. So it also has the OK forward and back button. I don't need to talk about that. It has an SD card slot on the right hand side, the mic port on the left hand side, and it also has an HDMI port and an AV port, and I use that now to connect to an external monitor, and I can monitor whatever is going on in the frame. So because this camera doesn't have a flip out screen, and my old camera did, I have to get an external monitor, and you can connect this to a TV with AV ports or a HDMI port. So it is great and very productive. It has the on and off button here, and it's pretty easy to just turn it on and off. You get used to it very quickly. Now, the detachable lens button, you push in and then you can twist. It gives you the capability of just taking out and swapping lenses. I use the 35mm lens for great bokeh or bokeh video, so yeah. Now, it has a tripod mount at the bottom, and also the battery mount, battery slot, and I would recommend to get a second battery. The only reason I would say that is I go on holidays a lot, and what I found when I went to Portugal is that I was out for like 8 hours every day, and I used my camera basically like 4 or 5 hours, and it ran out. And the reason being is the battery isn't really that big of a milliamps, so you should just get a second battery. Trust me, once you experience your camera turning off on you halfway through a shoot, halfway through a video that you're trying to record on YouTube, you'll realize I need to get in a second battery or charge it before every single shoot. So it also has this auto flash mode where if you press the shutter halfway down, the flash will pop up depending on whether the subject is bright or dark. So if it's dark, maybe you're shooting in the night, what you can do is get the auto mode and the flash will pop up. Now, I know you're probably thinking, basically, what happens when you're not allowed to use the flash? Well, Nikon sorted this. They have a non-flash mode, which basically terminates the use of the flash. So I went to a museum and I wasn't allowed any flash whatsoever, and I used this mode. It's basically auto, but it doesn't have the flash, and it's guaranteed to not turn the flash on. So you can save yourself getting in trouble by putting on this mode, because if you get caught putting on a flash in a museum that strictly tells you not to, then yeah, it's just put it on if maybe an event asks you not to have flash photography. So it also films 30 FPS, which is great. However, it films 60 FPS as well, which is even better. 1080p at 60 frames per second, 720p at 60 frames per second, 720 at 30, etc, etc. Now, I purely bought this camera as well on me doing gymnastics, and I probably needed the 60 FPS as I can slow down my videos with better quality and less blurry. When you slow down a video, it gets blurry, but when you see something in slow motion, it's like properly slowed down because the FPS is so high. It's like 60 FPS. Now my old camera filmed 120 FPS in 480p. This does none of that. So if you want to film slow motion, I'd recommend getting another camera purely on that. Now it is a camera, so cameras take pictures. So what type of pictures does it take? Well, it takes JPEG pictures, and I would recommend pulling it on JPEG fine. I will talk a bit more in my full in-depth review. However, it takes JPEG and RAW at the same time if need be. Now also the SD card I mentioned, you should get a class 10 SD card. What this is basically you're having faster read and write speeds on your card, and it will process the images a lot faster. Now it also has a focus ring on the lens. I don't need to talk about that as that's for the lens review, not for this review. But yeah, just remember to buy whatever lens you need. Now it has 24.2 megapixels, this camera, and it is great, and basically I love taking photos on this camera, so yeah. Now it takes a long time to take a picture on the live view mode. I don't know why. Maybe it has to like go through a mirror and then go back, but I think if you want to take photos, that's why more people use the viewfinder, because it just is like a split of a second, whereas the live view is like twice as slow. So yeah. And it also has a wireless adapter I forgot to mention for phone syncing, so you can sync your phone to it via Wi-Fi. I tend to not even get this, as I can just put my SD card in or transfer it onto my computer and then onto my phone, etc. Overall, it is a great camera, and basically I would recommend this for a first DSLR. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Also, I have got a big announcement coming up your way soon, and I've probably said the word "and" a lot. That's because I, believe it or not, haven't been scripting this video. It's all on my head. So guys, thanks for watching. Please leave a like. If you have watched this far in the video, please comment hashtag I love Coke. And basically people will be like, what's this? And then they'll find out if they watched this far in the video. Anyway guys, I'm Hamza from Super Extreme Video, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Laters lads. Yeah.